Okay, imagine this, right? You're holding this book in your hands, and it was actually present at the Battle of Bosworth Field.
Whoa.
And it's not just like any book. It's a prayer book,
Okay.
owned and inscribed by Richard III himself. What would that even feel like to connect with history in such a tangible way?
You know, it's funny you say that because that's exactly what we're diving into today.
What?
The Lambeth Palace Library, it's this incredible treasure trove of historical documents and books, many of which offer these really pretty incredible glimpses into the past.
So I mean, just to be clear here, we're talking manuscripts that go all the way back to the 9th century, right?
Yeah.
This library has, like, seen it all.
It really has. And you know, one of the most visually stunning pieces in their collection is the 13th century Lambeth Apocalypse. So imagine, if you will, a beautifully illuminated manuscript. It depicts the end of the world as envisioned in the book of Revelation. You know, vivid colors that haven't faded over time, intricate details of, you know, these monstrous creatures, generous use of gold leaf.
Wow.
It's both beautiful and terrifying.
It's almost paradoxical, right? Like,
Yeah.
finding such beauty and craftsmanship in a book that's depicting such horrific events.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, what was going on in that time that would cause people to be so focused on the end of the world?
Right. Well, you have to keep in mind that the 13th century was, you know, it was a period marked by significant upheaval.
Yeah.
You know, plagues, famines, wars. Those were all very real and constant threats at that time. You know, for many people, the world really must have felt like it was, you know, truly on the brink of collapse.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the Lambeth Apocalypse, you know, with its vivid depictions of judgment and destruction, you know, reflects those anxieties.
Right.
But it also kind of offered this strange sense of comfort, you know. It was a reminder, of course, of the fragility of life,
Yeah.
but also of the importance of, you know, spiritual preparation and faith in the face of uncertainty,
Yeah.
you know.
Now, that makes sense. These historical objects can give us such a deep understanding of the past.
Right.
Speaking of historical objects, though, I've got to ask about the library's copy of the Gutenberg Bible.
Oh, yeah.
The earliest printed book in the West. From what I've heard, this copy is extra special. Like, how so?
It is. What makes the Lambeth copy so intriguing is that it was initially misidentified as a manuscript.
Huh.
It's that beautifully hand-illuminated, and get this, it's printed on parchment,
Okay.
which is a much more luxurious material than paper.
Oh, wow.
And it features English illumination, which suggests it was specially commissioned for someone wealthy, although we don't know exactly who.
Yeah.
But
It's like holding a piece of the puzzle.
Mm.
You know, it fits into this larger story, but missing a crucial piece of information.
right.
And it's one of the earliest copies to reach England.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the journey, right?
Absolutely. Every book has its own unique journey. And speaking of journeys, the library also houses a really fascinating book belonging to John Morton, the first Archbishop of Canterbury known to have owned printed books. His copy of Quintilian's work on rhetoric offers a really unique glimpse into his life and times. You might remember him as the mind behind Morton's Fork.
Wait, Morton's Fork.
Yeah.
I need a
You need a little
little reminder.
refresher. It was a clever, albeit somewhat manipulative, tactic that he used to extract taxes from Henry VI's subjects.
Okay.
Basically, if someone lived lavishly, they clearly had money to spare for taxes. But if someone lived frugally, well, they must have saved a fortune and could certainly afford to, you know, contribute to the royal coffers.
Oh.
Either way, they ended up paying.
Okay. Yeah.
And his copy of Quintilian is even more interesting because it features his coat of arms and a rebus,
Okay.
which is a visual pun of his name.
Uh-huh.
It's a reminder of a time when visual cues really played a crucial role in understanding text.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now this is where it gets really interesting.
Mm.
So the library has a book of hours that's believed to have belonged to Richard III,
Yeah.
a personal devotional book.
Right.
So what's so captivating about this book?
Well, it's, the evidence linking it to Rich III. There's a calendar inscription marking his birthday and Latin prayers that are believed to be in his own handwriting. And there's even a theory that this book was actually in his tent at the Battle of Bosworth Field, only to end up with the Stanley family after his defeat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about a tangible link to history. imagine the weight of that history, the emotions tied to this, like one object.
I know.
If these pages could talk. And speaking of stories, we can't forget about Henry VIII, a king known for his, let's just say, strong personality.
Right.
So what does Lambeth Palace Library tell us about him?
Well, Bancroft, the archbishop who founded the library, he acquired a book from Henry VIII's own library,
Okay.
a 1532 volume arguing against the annulment of his marriage to Catherine Aragon.
Oh, wow.
A bit ironic, wouldn't you say?
Oh, that is pretty ironic, considering his actions.
Yeah.
I can't help but wonder if Bancroft acquired that book on purpose.
Hmm.
You know, like, did he want people to see the other side of the argument? Was he trying to make a statement? It's interesting.
And what's even more remarkable are Henry VIII's own handwritten annotations in the margins.
Oh, really?
So clearly he was actively engaging with these arguments, and let's just say he didn't hold back. He violently erased parts of the title page, especially the references to Catherine as his lawful wife.
Oh, wow. It's like we're witnessing his anger and frustration firsthand.
Right.
You know?
Mm.
Those erasures, they speak volumes about his emotional response to this text.
Yeah, it really shows his his deep personal involvement in this whole debate.
Mm.
It wasn't just some abstract legal matter to him. It was deeply personal, and it reminds us that even kings, with all their power and authority, were still subject to the same human emotions as everyone else.
No, totally.
Yeah.
So from passionate kings to a young king in training, the Lambeth Palace Library also has this Venetian atlas that may have been used in the education of Edward VI.
Oh, wow.
But it's not just any atlas, though. It has like beautifully detailed maps and even a working compass within the binding.
Really?
Talk about a historical GPS.
That's amazing.
So what's the story with that?
Well, it really is a marvel of both artistry and practicality. But what's curious is that the dedication page was left blank. It's been speculated that the Venetians who gifted the atlas were unsure whether Henry VIII or Edward VI would ultimately receive it. They were playing it safe, given the political uncertainty of the time.
Yeah. Smart move. Can you imagine trying to navigate the courtly politics of that era?
Oh, I know.
Talk about a high-stakes game.
Yeah. And this atlas isn't, it isn't just a beautiful object. It also offers this fascinating snapshot of geographical knowledge during Edward VI's time.
Right.
Comparing it to, our modern understanding of the world, it really highlights how much our perspective has changed.
Yeah. I mean, it's a reminder that knowledge is constantly evolving, right?
Yeah.
And each generation kind of builds upon the discoveries or perspectives of those who came before.
Right.
But sometimes it's the smallest, seemingly insignificant items that offer the most poignant insights.
Yeah.
So the library houses this single printed sheet containing prayers for Mary Tudor's safe delivery during her phantom pregnancy.
Yeah, that's, it's truly a rare find. This is the only known surviving copy, and it was only preserved because it was, pasted inside a larger liturgical book, and it it speaks to the fragility of historical records and how these seemingly small acts of preservation can make a world of difference.
It is kind of heartbreaking though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these prayers for a pregnancy that never was, a reminder of the hopes and disappointments that shaped Mary's reign.
Right.
And really humanizes her in a way that historical narratives often don't.
Yeah, it reminds us that these historical figures were real people with, hopes, dreams, and sorrows, just like us.
For sure.
And it underscores the importance of looking beyond the grand narratives and seeking out those small personal details that truly connect us to the past.
Absolutely. And speaking of connecting to the past, our final stop takes us to Sion College, a 17th century institution in London.
Okay.
It had this library that rivaled Lambeth Palace's.
Really?
But sadly, it was destroyed in the Great Fire of London.
Oh, wow.
Such a sobering reminder of the destructive power of events like the Great Fire. But there is a story of resilience here, though, right?
Right.
The library was actually rebuilt thanks to the generosity of London citizens.
Wow.
They understood the importance of preserving knowledge and rebuilding their community.
That's inspiring.
And the Sion College Benefactors book, it's a detailed record of the of the donations is like this window into the heart of that community.
It really is. You can see the names of the people who donated, their professions, even little notes about why they chose to contribute. It paints such a a vivid picture of the people who helped rebuild this important institution, reminding us that history is made up of individual stories and acts of generosity, big and small.
Yeah, yeah. It's a powerful reminder that even in the face of tragedy, there is always hope for renewal and the possibility of building a better future.
And it speaks to the enduring value that we place on education, knowledge, and the preservation of our shared cultural heritage.
So, I mean, we've barely scratched the surface of the incredible treasures held within the Lambeth Palace Library.
Right.
But what are some key takeaways that you think our listeners should keep in mind from this part of our deep dive?
Well, I think first and foremost, history isn't just dates and names.
Yeah.
It's a tapestry of human experiences, emotions and relationships. The objects and documents that we've discussed today, they offer glimpses into the lives of real people who shaped the course of history.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's those small personal details that really bring the past to life. What else?
It's also, crucial to remember the importance of preserving our shared cultural heritage. Libraries, archives, and museums play, a vital role in protecting and making accessible these invaluable treasures for future generations.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a responsibility that we all share.
Yeah.
These objects, they hold stories that need to be told and lessons that need to be learned.
And finally, history is constantly evolving. Our understanding of the past is shaped by, the questions we ask, the perspectives we bring, and the new discoveries that come to light.
Yeah. So it's an ongoing conversation.
Exactly.
This dialogue between the past, present, and future.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation that we all have the privilege of participating in.
It really is. Okay, so we talked about, how the Lambeth apocalypse kind of reflects people's fears about the end of the world.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about like the specifics. What other anxieties, or concerns might have been weighing on people's minds during that time period?
Right. Well, just imagine living in the 13th century. It was a time of immense, social and political change. Plagues like, the Black Death, they just swept across Europe, decimating, populations.
That long.
Famines were a recurring threat, and wars raged across the continent. And then you have, religious conflicts.
Right.
That added another, layer of tension and uncertainty.
It sounds like a pretty intense time to be alive.
It was. People grappled with fundamental questions about faith, mortality, and the meaning of life. In the face of these very, very real and very frightening threats and these anxieties, they found expression in the art and literature of the time.
Okay.
The Lambeth apocalypse is just one example. Think about the Danse Macabre. Or the Dance of Death. It was a popular artistic motif that emerged during this period. It depicted skeletons dancing with people from all walks of life.
Oh, wow.
The stark reminder of death's inevitability.
Yeah. So it seems like these themes of death and judgment, they would resonated deeply with people who were facing such a turbulent world.
Absolutely. These works, they served as both a warning and a source of comfort. They reminded people of the fragility of life and the importance of, spiritual preparation. But they also offered a sense of community and shared experience, in the face of these universal fears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing how art can reflect the anxieties of a particular time period.
Right.
And how those anxieties can transcend time and still resonate with us today.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that have transcended time, though, let's talk about the impact of the Gutenberg Bible.
Okay.
How did the printing of this book change the way that people access knowledge and information?
Oh, well, the invention of the printing press was a monumental turning point in history.
Okay.
Before Gutenberg, books were, they were primarily copied by hand, which was a painstakingly slow and expensive process. This meant that knowledge was largely restricted to the wealthy elite who could afford these handcrafted books.
It's hard to even fathom the amount of time and effort that went into creating a single book before the printing press.
I know, mind-boggling. But with movable type, books could suddenly be produced much more quickly and efficiently. And as production costs went down, the price of books became more affordable. Allowing knowledge and information to spread to a wider audience.
So it was like a democratization of knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It opened up this whole new world of learning and intellectual exploration for people who had previously been, excluded.
Yeah.
And the impact of the Gutenberg Bible was enormous. It paved the way for the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Scientific Revolution, all of which were fueled by, the increased availability of printed material.
Wow. I mean, it's incredible to think about the ripple effect of this one invention and how it transformed the course of history.
Right.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about John Morton.
Okay.
So we know that he was this clever politician, a master of rhetoric, and let's face it, a pretty shrewd tax collector.
Right.
But what else can you tell us about his life and career? Like, what kind of person was he?
Right. Well, John Morton was a fascinating figure. He was born into a relatively humble family, but his intelligence and ambition, they propelled him to the highest echelons of both the church and the government.
So like a real self-made man.
You could say that, yeah. He studied law and worked his way up through the church hierarchy, eventually becoming bishop of Ely. And he was a close advisor to King Edward IV and a key player in the Wars of the Roses.
Oh, that's right, the Wars of the Roses.
Yes, which was, a period of intense political turmoil in English history.
A truly tumultuous time.
It was. After Edward I's death, Morton initially supported Richard III's claim to the throne, but he later switched allegiance to Henry Tudor, who became Henry VII.
Wow.
It was a risky move, but one that ultimately, paid off.
He sounds like he really knew how to play the game of power.
He did. Henry VIII appointed him Archbishop of Canterbury and Lord Chancellor, making him one of the most powerful men in England. And remember his mastery of rhetoric.
Yeah.
As evidenced by his ownership of Quintilian's work, it certainly came in handy in the world of politics.
No kidding. It's amazing how we can trace the lives and decisions of these historical figures through the objects that they owned and the books that they read.
Right.
Speaking of which, though, Richard III's Book of Hours, it gives us such a personal glimpse into his spiritual life, and that theory about it, being present at the Battle of Bosworth Field,
Right.
It just blows my mind.
It's an incredibly evocative image, isn't it? It really brings history to life, reminding us that these figures that we read about in history books, they were real people who, experienced the full range of human emotions, hope, fear, ambition, despair. And sometimes it's the most personal and seemingly mundane objects that can reveal the most profound truths about the past.
Absolutely. And speaking of profound truths, Henry VIII's annotations in that book, arguing against his annulment, really paint a vivid picture of his personality.
Yeah.
And you could practically feel his anger and frustration leaping off the page.
It's fascinating to see how he grappled with the arguments presented to him. You can see him challenging points, questioning assumptions, and ultimately expressing his fury through those violent erasures. It's a reminder that even kings, with all their power, were still, human beings driven by emotions. And in Henry VIII's case, those emotions were often quite intense.
No kidding. It's like he was having this conversation with the book itself.
Right.
Like arguing with the author across the centuries.
Exactly. And it highlights the power of the written word to provoke such, strong reactions, even in those who wield immense authority.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And speaking of power and authority, I can only imagine the anxiety that, those Venetian diplomats must felt as they tried to figure out who to dedicate that magnificent atlas to.
Yeah.
It was a risky move leaving the dedication blank.
Right.
But it seems like they made the right call.
Yeah, they were definitely navigating a complex, political landscape. Leaving the dedication blank was a strategic move,
Right.
allowing them to hedge their bets and avoid potentially offending, either Henry VIII or Edward VI. It speaks volumes about the challenges of international diplomacy, especially in such a volatile period.
It makes you wonder about all the behind-the-scenes maneuvering and political calculations that went into, seemingly simple acts like gifting a book.
Absolutely. And it underscores how, seemingly insignificant details can offer, valuable insights into the nuances of power and the complexities of historical events.
It's all about reading between the lines, isn't it?
Exactly.
And sometimes those lines are literally erased,
Right.
like in Henry VIII's case.
Right. Sometimes what's left unsaid or erased can be just as revealing as what's written.
Speaking of things left unsaid, though, the story of Mary Tudor's phantom pregnancy and the prayers for her safe delivery. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It speaks to the immense pressure and scrutiny she must face, especially as a female monarch in a time when a woman's worth was so closely tied to her ability to produce an heir.
It's a poignant reminder of the societal expectations and gender roles that were so deeply ingrained in Tudor England.
Yeah.
The fact that these prayers were printed and distributed so widely, it underscores the importance of the royal succession to the nation as a whole. The stability of the monarchy and therefore the stability of the realm was seen as resting on the shoulders of the monarch and their ability to provide an heir.
It's hard to imagine the weight of that responsibility, especially for a woman who so desperately wanted to fulfill that role.
Yeah, it's a reminder that history is not just about kings and queens and battles.
Right.
It's also about the personal struggles, hopes, and disappointments of individuals who lived through these extraordinary times.
Absolutely. And finally, we come to the story of Sion College and its library.
Yeah.
It's tragic that it was destroyed in the Great Fire of London.
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly inspiring to see how the community came together to rebuild it.
Oh.
It's a testament to their resilience and belief in the power of education.
It's a powerful example of collective action and the enduring human spirit. The Sion College Benefactors book, with its detailed record of donations, serves as this lasting tribute to the generosity and vision of those who helped restore this vital institution. It's a reminder that even in the face of devastating loss, communities can come together to rebuild and create something even stronger than what was lost.
It's a beautiful sentiment and one that resonates deeply, especially in our world today, which often feels so divided.
Right.
So we've explored some incredible treasures from the Lambeth Palace Library.
Yeah.
Each one offering a unique window into the past. But as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm wondering what key takeaways do you think our listeners should keep in mind?
Well, I think first and foremost, history is not this static collection of facts and figures. It's a dynamic and evolving story that is constantly being reshaped and reinterpreted as new evidence comes to light.
Okay.
And new perspectives emerge. The objects and documents that we've discussed today, they offer us just a glimpse into the complexities of the past.
It's like we're piecing together this giant jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
And each new discovery adds another piece to the picture.
Yeah.
Sometimes changing our understanding of the whole.
Exactly. And secondly, I think it's crucial to remember that history is made up of individual stories.
Right.
The Lambeth Palace Library reminds us that behind every historical event, every political decision, every grand narrative, there are real people with their own hopes, fears, and motivations.
It's about finding those human connections.
Right.
Those moments of empathy that allow us to truly understand the past.
Absolutely. And finally, these stories, they underscore the importance of preserving our shared cultural heritage. Libraries, archives, and museums, they play this vital role in safeguarding these treasures and making them accessible to future generations.
Yeah, it's a responsibility we all we all share. After all these objects, they hold stories that need to be told, lessons that need to be learned, and connections that need to be made.
Yeah, it really is like a collective effort, you know?
It makes you wonder what other stories and secrets and perspectives are kind of hidden within those within those countless pages and volumes, just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. The Lambeth Palace Library is this treasure trove of historical, gems, and we've only just scratched the surface today.
Right.
But it's a reminder that history is a vast and an ever unfolding story. There's always more to discover, more to learn, more to connect with.
Speaking of connecting, before we wrap up, I want to pose a question to our listeners. What what historical objects or stories have resonated with you the most? What mysteries or unanswered questions have kind of sparked your curiosity?
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections.
Well,
Share your insights with us on social media using the hashtag Deep Dive History.
yeah.
We're always eager to engage with our listeners and explore new avenues of historical inquiry.
And if you're as captivated by these glimpses into the past as we are, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our future deep dives into equally fascinating topics.
And if you're intrigued by what you've heard today, I encourage you to check out the Lambeth Palace Library's online catalog. You
Right.
can even plan a visit if you're ever in London.
And while you're at it, delve into the history of Science College. It's a testament to the enduring power of community and the importance of preserving knowledge.
Yeah.
Even in the face of devastating loss.
It's a reminder that every book, every document has a story to tell.
It's up to us to listen. Until next time, happy exploring.